Morris. I am the founder of Agency Authority. We are a consulting business that helps multi-six-figure agency owners start to maximize their team, increase productivity, so ultimately they can start increasing their profits. I have with me today Robert Patin of Creative Agency Success. He also hosts an amazing podcast that you should absolutely listen to called The Agency Blueprint. He was kind enough to let me join him for a conversation there, which is how we got connected. And just through listening to some of his episodes, he was just touching on a lot of things that I thought would be really great for us to talk about. I think it would be really valuable to this audience, so I invited him on. Robert, why don't you share a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a career finance guy, worked internally at agencies for several years. I'm a bit of a nosy person, so I started sticking my nose in all sorts of places in the agency that I wasn't really supposed to be, which exposed me to all sorts of different pieces from sales to operational problems and all that sort of stuff that ultimately did impact the financial statement. And that was ultimately my end goal, really, as for a career overarching, is how do I make the business more profitable? And then started doing that fractionally and now do that full time with agencies every single day.
I love it. And we don't call it nosy, we call it inquisitive. Because if you're nosy, then I'm nosy too. We're inquisitive and curious, Robert. Okay. We're not nosy. There's the difference. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'd been listening to a few episodes on your podcast, and you were talking a lot. I don't know if it was on purpose that these were seemingly in a bit of a series, but you were talking a lot about, right fit clients, referrals, this lead gen process, how you're often hearing, I need more leads. And I know this is something I see too with the business owners that I work with, is they're looking for more leads, but then they're getting clients in, and then things kind of start going off the rails during client delivery, and then we're wondering what's wrong. And, we all hear about these nightmare clients, but I want to hear from you. What are you seeing right now that's making client acquisition feel harder than it used to for agencies?
So, I mean, I think there's loads of things that are impacting the environment that we currently find ourselves. One of them is that I think that buyers are just more skeptical, really, and they're a bit more informed. And part of it is that they're more skeptical because they're unsure about where we stand economically, right? I mean, you look at the news and we're all reading the same things that feels alarming, which then makes people less apt and desiring to make buying decisions. They are more informed of the types of things and directions that they could be going. And many of them have been burned in the past, right? So they have been told, you, I, and every single person in the world have received and been the viewer of an overly bombastic snake oil ad that promises the world and may have even opted into them. And so people end up feeling, well, if people are out there saying these types of things, they end up feeling like, what can I really trust? And they are scared, and reasonably so. So they start to research you, they are more concerned about what happens, and they are trying to make the best possible decision that they possibly can. And one little tidbit of advice there is that so many agencies immediately go into trying to sell versus trying to have a conversation, which actually does the exact opposite. When you have someone coming in that's skeptical, that's unsure, that it feels like they're more informed, they have been burned in the past. If you try to sell them, then they're going to pull back. And so you need to be more careful about the way that you approach that conversation, and actually just more of you as a person. And the other factor is I also just see that things feel generally a bit more commoditized. So there's implications from, the likes of me and other, business consultants out there in the agency space that has created for more productized, niche, specialized firms, that has created, even within different specific market segments, have actually created for a lot of specialization, which is a great thing. But then it also creates for a greater need of further segmentation, greater standard, greater differentiation in the market for you. So just making sure that you are not falling into the sea of same. And if you're not specialized, it's even more so true. I'll pause there. There's more that I can say, but.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree with you more. It's this double-edged sword of getting really burned in the past. Like you said, I think now that we've been in this, they call it the online space, right? Like it's a new thing, but right when there really became like a lot of online businesses popping up, those barriers started coming down to start your own business.
Hmm.
I think even post-pandemic, there was an additional surge into the market of this
Yep.
idea of everybody's going to start their own business. I think sometimes too, in terms of creative agencies, I don't know if I'm going to get some booze for this, but like I worked in ad agencies for a number of years before I started my own business. And, we used to always say, like, just because you own InDesign does not make, right? Like, just because you
Agreed.
can buy Adobe Suite, that does not mean you're a designer. It doesn't mean you're a marketer. But somehow it feels like it's one of those things that if I learn Canva or I learn InDesign, then I'm a designer. And not so much, right? There's definitely a lot more skill and finesse, expertise
Yeah.
that goes into that. And so I agree. I think a lot of people came out and was like, I'm a designer, I'm going to start my own business. And I'm picking on that particular specialization, but insert social media ads, insert social media marketing, insert marketing in general, right? Insert whatever you want. And then because it was easy for people to get visible who maybe weren't credentialed or didn't know how to run a business or didn't know what they were doing, they went out and burned a lot of bridges. And so now those of us who do have experience, right, there are the credentials there and stuff, we're really having to show up and let people know that we mean what we say, right? We can back up what we're bringing to the table. So I just couldn't agree with you more there. And so knowing this, right, knowing that our buyers are a lot more discerning because, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And then you couple that with everything that's going on politically, economically, right? This has been a very tumultuous couple of years. I don't think anybody would dispute that. So
Yep.
how can agency owners, what can they be doing, right, to say, let me show you that I know what I'm talking about. Let me find right fit clients, right? Instead of showing up ready to sell, what should they be doing instead? And tell us how you address that.
I mean, the reality of the world, and there's several things that I would suggest. When you consider that someone is in a place of over stimulus, over communication, and the level of noise is just absolutely insane. You're needing to first turn the noise level down for them. And so, how do you actually go about making someone feel secure? Is you ask them questions that they either didn't even know that they should be asking, and then you're getting into the depths of what's going on. You're being inquisitive about what it is that they're looking to accomplish. You're really getting to know the individual. And so you have questions that you should be asking rather than someone coming to you. And so I'm going to identify a couple of things, but there's the idea that someone says, hey, I want to know what it's going to cost for me to have you manage my social media accounts, right? So like, what is your monthly kind of retainer? And like, what does that actually look like? Well, it's like, well, all right, hold on. Like, I can give you that, but like, let's talk about what you're looking to accomplish. Who are you trying to reach? What are you doing now? Why is that not working? How much revenue are you getting? Is this actually the right pathway for you to go in the first place? And the amount of times we personally have told prospective agencies, like, I'm sorry, we're just not ready to work together yet. You're not at the right size. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable taking any of your revenue now. Like, I would be taking food out of your children's mouths by doing that, and you're just not ready for this yet. Here's a couple of resources for you to go, learn and then get to this place, and let's have another conversation. It's just genuine, it's authentic, it's real, it's human. And the more that you show up as that person, like I find it very interesting, this idea that so many agencies, when I first start working with them, this idea that they need to put on this like exterior different personality in order to actually sell a prospective client.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, but someone's paying you right now for advice, right? Well, so why don't you just go do that? The thing that you're doing in client conversations right now, like someone's paying you for that today. And this person's not
Yes.
paying you. Why don't you just do that and let them see what it would be like to actually work with you?
Do that. Do the pay thing. Yes, I think that's such a great point. And I do think we just to literally put on our sales cap when it's time for the discovery call. And then we're going to show up and we're going to say the right things and we're right. And then we're going to do the slide deck and we're going to show the
We're going to convince
capabilities,
them.
presentation, right? Yeah, we're going to do the dog and pony show and then they're going to be ours, right? And I love what you're saying. No, your clients like you. It's going well. They keep paying you every month. Just go do that to the new people, right? Like just go do that. Like, Robert, dare I say, would you say just care about, just care, right? And I think it's too, like you said, like listening, which is such just it can be difficult, I think, when you're in that stage where I think sometimes too, it's a mindset thing. We start getting caught up in that we have to prove our worth. We have to prove, maybe because of some of the stuff we were just talking about, like we get so swept up in ourselves. Like I've got to prove I know all the things and I'm going to say all the right, and I'm going to show them the slide deck and show them the presentation. But maybe what's better is just to start by listening and really understanding what their needs are. And then do some sharing and then right, whip out the capabilities deck.
And anyone that's new in sales, like, and this is like, I'm not a big fan of like dogmatic rules, but if you're going to be in a conversation with someone, let's say that your discovery call is 60 minutes long, the reality is that you shouldn't really be talking about anything related to what you would do to solve the problem until like 40 minutes, 45 minutes in. If you're doing that in the first 5 or 10 minutes, like, no, you've done the exact wrong thing. Like you haven't even given the person the opportunity to get to know you yet, to even listen to what you have to say. And as I said right at the start of this conversation, right? And I think that I'm a pretty good salesperson, but predominantly because I'm not doing any selling in the first place, is that I'm a career finance guy, right? Like I was the person that sweat through my clothes the first time I had to speak to a team of 30 people at an agency, like legitimately sweat through my clothes. Like that's who I was. The fact that I now speak to groups of people now don't know how I got here, but anyways, the reality of it is that the thing that I had to do at the very beginning, right, is like, I knew that I had the experience. Like I have worked at this many agencies internally. I have accomplished these things. And before every call, considering pocket protecting, wearing accountant, needing to turn into a salesperson is how I was perceiving it, right? Is I needed to remind myself of my own experience. And so like I would go through that before a call just to like lift myself up, to get my ego to the right spot that I needed to actually have, and then just show up that way. The reality is exactly as we were talking about earlier, someone is currently paying you right now, and that advice that you are providing is incredibly valuable. And know that, feel that, own that. And if you actually do own that, it allows for you to show up in a completely different version of yourself. And the other piece that took me a bit of some time, because I think I still did a bit of that like used car salesman to begin with when I was first putting on my sales hat, that we all do or did. And if you didn't, I'm not your friend.
In good company, did it too.
There was a specific day that like I had an aha moment, and I had walked to the office that day, and my husband was going to drive to come pick me up at the end of work. And it was the last call I had that day. I didn't have anything else to do. And someone joined a sales call that just wasn't at the right size. They were not ready. We were too expensive. Like there was nothing for me to sell them. And so it's like, I don't have anything to do. I'm just going to pour into this person is what I decided to do. Like, I've got an hour with you. I have nothing else to do. Like, I'm just going to help you. And that resulted in multiple referrals from that person. Eventually, this person did become a client 6 months later when they got to the size that ultimately did make sense. And I had fun on that call. It was one of the first sales calls that I remember actually enjoying. And I'm like, well, hold on a minute. Doing this all day long now because I enjoy doing what I'm doing. And then, well, why don't I just do that on a sales call and feel the same way? I can get the same amount of enjoyment that I'm getting solving agency client problems, but now do this in a sales context. And I mean, obviously the narrative needs to be a little bit different, and like you have to have some aspects of curation to it. Don't get me wrong, but you can do the same thing, have fun, provide value, allow someone to actually have insight into the experience that you have experience of what it would actually be like to work with you that allows for them to feel safer, to have greater trust, to be able to have greater buy-in, which then has such a significant amount of impact when they do actually say yes. Because if you did convince someone, and mind you, if we were able to convince anyone of anything, we would not be headed towards civil war in this country, right? But if you were able to have done that, let's say that you were going to be in a consistent, constantly needing to convince someone throughout the entirety of the relationship. And that just doesn't sound like fun to me either. And you're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's so funny. As you were sharing that story, I was thinking of a similar aha I had for myself, right? Because as I confess, guilty as charged, I'm like, time for the sales presentation, Melissa, and I'm going into the call, right? And then I'm like, oh, it's just not feeling good. I was converting, but there were bits I was losing. I'm like, they were a perfect fit. Like, I know I could have helped them. Like, what happened? And years ago, I was working with a business coach, and I'm talking to her. She's like, Melissa, you are such an extrovert. Shocker, I know. And she goes, just go make friends. I want you to just think about that. Like, just go make friends. You love talking to people. You love being around people. Just go talk to people. And suddenly it was like the cue to me, take off that hat, right? And I did. I started showing up. And to your point, right, there was an arc there, right? It wasn't completely haphazard, but I just showed up differently and just curious, as we were talking about before, right? Just talking to them, like, let me understand, what do you need? Can I support you? Am I the best person to support you? And when I started showing up in that way, it was fun, to your point too. And I got a lot more sales.
Yeah. You get paid to do good in that view, right? Like, you can do well by doing well.
Yes. Yes. I wanted a little bit of a side question here for you. So you were talking about, if you're on a call with somebody for an hour, like this sales call, discovery call, whatever, your business chooses to call it. And you mentioned the first 40 minutes, you shouldn't even be doing that. I'm curious in general how you feel about an hour-long sales call. Is that what you do? Because I think I feel and have seen different conversations about that, right? I feel like there was a period of time where it was like, get on a free call with me, get on a free call with me. Then there seemed to be this shift of you shouldn't be giving away your time. You shouldn't be getting on free calls. You should have paid calls. Now I feel like we're coming back to free calls. I feel like I always get questions about how long they should be. So I'm just curious what you're saying in terms of these type of calls as part of a sales process.
I suppose it depends, right? And I believe in nuance. I don't believe in like step 1 to step 12. And each one of you watching this video today, joining in live, are at a different stage and are selling a different complexity to the service product of what you're doing. So if you've got an incredibly complex service, then you probably need a longer conversation. And if you have a very clearly defined productized offer that has a very clear, you're here, you're wanting to get here, and here's the outcome that I'm able to accomplish, sure, 30 minutes probably works. But you also want to make sure that you're not just giving away an hour of your time to every single person. So starting with an hour, probably not. If I'm getting an email from Tim Cook at Apple, like, yeah, okay, I'll spend an hour with
Clear
you.
the calendar.
Yeah, that's fine.
Move some things around.
Yeah. But otherwise, hey, you have a normal kind of qualification call, 15, 20 minutes, get to know, see where the person is. Do they make sense? Is there, some commonality? Is there even a possibility for you to be able to help them? Yes, there is. Cool. Let's schedule a longer conversation. And in order for you to get to the true core of what their challenge is and what's going on, understand enough of the business in order for you to be able to have an educated conversation about how to solve their business challenge, then that's the amount of time that you should take. Is it 30 minutes? Is it 45 minutes? Is it 90 minutes? 90 minutes feels a bit long, but it could be.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're doing.
Yes. Thank you for pointing out that nuance, because I agree. It's not always a simple yes or no to a free discovery call, or always keep them to 20 minutes, or always, it needs to match the complexity of the offer, the complexity of the need, the price tag of the offer, right? As we've talked about, our buyers are getting more discerning. Maybe I'll pay 50 or $100 for a downloadable, and I don't need a sales call for that. But if I'm going to invest $10,000 in a program, I'm going to need a little chit chat with you, and I'm going to need to make sure, right, that this is feeling good and you're going to deliver on what you said you're going to deliver on.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. And I think that gives viewers too an opportunity to say, where am I at in that process? And just looking at that alignment feel there. Yeah.
100%.
Okay, good. So clients come to you and say, we need more leads, right? I need more leads, Robert. What is your recommendation to them?
I think that's what every single agency says when they first come to us.
Everybody just leaned in. They're like, what do you say, Robert?
So the first thing I would want to know is, do you actually have a lead flow problem? Is the first question that I'd want to know. Because often the problem actually isn't leads. Most often I find that it's actually retention tends to be the issue. If you are bona fide needing more leads, and we can talk about a couple of pieces, right? It's making sure that you're not losing a ton of business out of the back door, right? Like making sure that you're maintaining the relationships that you're building, because it's, as you, I'm sure, have commonly heard someone say, that it's more expensive to get a new client than it is to retain an existing one. So what can you be selling to your existing book of business? How can you make sure that you're maintaining the existing relationships? And then the next question is, well, what percentage of the leads am I actually converting? So do I have the lead flow that I need to accomplish this next threshold of growth that I'm looking to accomplish? And if I'm looking at my, let's say, 3-year goal, what do I need to accomplish in the next 6 to 12? Do I have enough leads to be able to accomplish that? If the answer is no, then there is some conversation about what we need to be looking at. And the first piece is, and there's loads of considerations here, and actually going to say a bit of a story. There was a mastermind group that I was a part of, and there was another consultant in the group, and every single month that we met, he had the same problem. I need more lead flow. And don't get me wrong, I think that we all could use more lead flow. I'm not going to say that we all can't.
Yeah.
But every single month he was like, well, what are you doing, Robert? What are you doing, Chris? What are you doing, this person? And he would change from one tactic to another. And my view is that most tactics work. Most channels work. You have to spend the time to actually get it to work. So assuming that your ideal client, so like, let's say that you're working with contractors, like email's probably not the best suited for those people, right? But if you're talking to accountants, email should work. LinkedIn probably can work. Ads also potentially can work if you have enough revenue to support running ads. Does your existing ICP, the persona who you're going after, where do they spend their time? And so focus your attention there, but make sure that you spend enough time and attention to allow for that to happen. And also make a consideration of, how quickly do I need these leads?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Each channel has a timeline. So do I need them in the next 3 days? Okay, well, I'm not going to start running ads, because guess what? I'm not going to get them in 3 days.
Not going to work.
Yeah, no. And
yes.
As much as, Instagram makes you wants to suggest that it will.
I know, right? Yeah, I think too, what I'm hearing is, one, we need to give it time, right? It's about picking something, it's really committing to it. But what I'm also hearing in there too is, we need to make sure we're solving for the right problem. And this is something I talk to my agency owners a lot about. I was actually on a call with someone this morning, and we were talking about how long the team meeting was. And as I'm sure you can appreciate, team meetings are expensive, and they've got lots of people on them, and they're lasting a long time, right? So we were talking about that, and they mentioned, well, maybe like the two teams just start breaking off and having their own meetings. And I think even as she was saying it, she realized, like, wait a second, that's still more meetings, right? Because then on the first thought, it's like, we're not all in a meeting, but we're still in meetings. So I'm like, okay, let's make sure we're solving for the right problem. Why are these meetings taking so long? Like, what are we covering? What's going on in them? And let's solve that problem, because we probably actually have something going on in client fulfillment, some sort of breakdown in our communication, what's going on in our project management tool, right? There's, again, a whole things we could look at and audit there to figure out, but now we're solving for the right problem. And so when I'm hearing you talk about this, I'm hearing do we have a leads problem? Maybe we actually have a conversion problem. Maybe you're getting lots of sales calls, they're just not converting. Or are we getting lots of sales calls and they're not the right fit? They don't understand your offer. So I love that conversation too of, is it just get more leads, or is there something more to look at there?
And I do think that like this idea, right, is a bit of like the whole bro marketing impact. But yeah, exactly. It's, are we solving for the right problem? So make sure that we've defined the right problem. And frankly, I think in business, 95% of the actual solution of achieving your goals, first identifying the right problem. Once you have identified the right problem, then the solutions actually kind of become much more apparent. Um, but then the other thing, so let's say that we do need a lead problem, and now we've identified the channel and the amount of time that it will take for me to be able to generate meaningful leads from this channel, that I have the time to do so. Okay, great. The thing that we then need to be looking at is, how exactly are we communicating with the people in this market? Which, I mean, seems very, foundational. And speaking with an agency audience, it seems obvious, but very often the agencies are not doing this well for themselves. So do
Yes.
people immediately understand who you help, why you do it, how you're different, what you can do, what the outcome's going to look like?
Mhm.
And then also thinking about the level of commitment based on the audience that you're talking to. Is this an audience that has no idea who you are? Do you have name notoriety within the space? No, you don't. Okay, well, then you need to have like a tiering into the way that you're going to engage with them. Make it a simple yes of something that they can ultimately do. I'm going to listen to a podcast episode. I'm going to download a lead magnet. I'm going to, make a small commitment of a couple of minutes without having to have a conversation. Going straight to, I'm going to sell you something, is not going to work in that situation. It's a little bit too aggressive. And just making sure that you're showing up in a way that allows for the example I like to use, right? It's like we've all experienced this. Like we walk into a department store. And so let's say that I was driving from my house and I'm driving to the beach and it's going to take me an hour to get there. And I realized halfway through, I forgot to bring my swim trunks. And so like, I'm going to go stop over at Macy's to go pick up a pair of swim trunks. And I walk into the department store. What happens? Hey, welcome to Macy's. Can I help you find anything? And you're like, no, nothing. I'm just browsing. Is your immediate response. But I'm actually there specifically. I have friends waiting in the car. I know exactly what I want. I have no idea where the men's department is, but my immediate response is, nope, nothing.
No help needed here.
We've all done it, right?
Yes.
And we all have this aversion to being sold because that's exactly what I would have felt in that moment.
Right.
And so just make sure you're not doing that in the way that you're approaching someone, that you're
Mhm.
allowing yourself to actually show up in an authentic way. Like as an example, talking with an agency colleague of mine, one of the things he was doing on LinkedIn that actually is now I'm utilizing with several clients just because it feels a whole lot more authentic, doing LinkedIn outreach of, hey, we don't know each other, but I'd like to change that. And it's just
Mm.
really soft and nice. And then, yeah, so you can
Mhm.
start to explain a little bit about what you do and what have you, but it just feels more human. And I think
Mhm.
that the age of digital media, social media, AI, where human to human relationships feels fleeting, and how that's even possible in a world of 8 billion people is beyond me. But
Right.
um, it is a fleeting thing. And
Yeah.
so making sure that you're doing and you're having conversations with people that allow for them to say yes or no, because they know that you're the right person for them to be having a conversation with. And also knowing, does your audience, are they problem aware? Are they solution aware? Do they need some
Mm.
education? And
Mhm.
just knowing those pieces and really getting into the depths of your own ICP is paramount.
Yes, yes. And so I want to talk a little bit too about referrals, because I know you've talked about this. I know sometimes when businesses are grown by referrals, that starts to feel like a crapshoot, right? Like we just, take the hope and pray approach that someone's going to connect with us and see what right? Like maybe the referrals dry up, maybe they don't. So I'd
Mhm.
love to hear a little bit more, because I think that is really to what you're talking about. Like, are we building relationships? Are we getting connected with people, right? Like we're not sending DMs. Melissa, quick question. If I could get you 100 leads today, would you say yes? I'm like, oh my God, what?
No, I say no.
I don't accept drugs. So tell me a little bit about that, like this new approach you're using, referrals, and how you're using that to build your business.
So the reality of how I see the world really, right, is that referrals are actually meaningfully useful, and many agencies have grown their business via referrals. It's the haphazard referrals that is a challenge and a risk. And so I actually did a conversation with an agency group yesterday. No, today's Thursday. So on Tuesday, about this exact topic. And a couple of things is, one, you want to make sure that you have the activity within your network that allows for you to actually consistently gain the referrals. So being referral based and having a referral strategy doesn't mean that you're not doing marketing activity. You absolutely are. But you also need to make sure that you realize that this is a human to human relationship that you have, and you need to be non-transactional in it as well. So like just little things, right? So like in my cabinet over there in my office, I have little thank you cards, little note cards that are actually from my brother-in-law, that I will handwrite a note to my own network of like, hey, we haven't spoken in a while, just was thinking about you today, and send a little handwritten note out to them. And my writing is abysmal, like just awful. So they know it actually came from me.
Ransom note or
yeah. Who knows?
Hide the
dog. And so it's, how can you think about who are the people, right? So if you have, there's a book I would actually highly recommend. It's called Referrals Without Asking, Stacey Brown Randall, that changed a bit of my own opinion around the ideal of being very heavily in the referral space. And I think that the book talks about one specific thing that I thought was really illuminating to me, and actually just very authentic into how I see the world from a relationship perspective. And what it is that she identifies is that when you're getting a referral, it actually has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them, and it has to do with the person that they're referring. And so recognizing that you just happen to be the person that is involved in this is, and knowing that and making sure that you're doing two things. One, that you are respecting the relationship of the person that is referring you by actually really meaningfully protecting the person that they've introduced, because they are taking a piece of their own relationship that they have and entrusting you with it. So how can you make sure that that relationship and that trust is being held? And then two, making sure that that person, right, when we help someone, because what has happened is someone came to us with a problem and they're making a referral to you to solve the problem that this person had. So if I am the person that is referring you as the agency, I feel good by helping someone in my network. I feel nice by doing that. So how can I continue to make that person feel that way? So like one of the ideas, and this is now an extrapolation from another book of Never Lose a Customer Again, Joey Coleman, but a client of mine, and I just love this concept, is that they're a branding agency, and what they do is they will print the new logos on cupcakes and send it both to the referrer and to the client of like a launch of the new brand. The website is live, so it gets hand delivered. There's balloons. It's nice, and so it allows the person that sent the referral over to like congratulate. They now know it's got a little handwritten note in it of like the site's live. Go check it out. They get to feel the same feeling again of I made this referral and I had impact to this person's life. That's great. I feel good. Now the client also feels good, and they're saying good things about you, which then may also become a person that is talking about you out there in the world and sending over referrals. But knowing who these individuals are, respecting the relationship that they have allowed for you to be part of now, and also making sure that you're recognizing the individual. Because what so many people do, and I've heard this, I don't know how many times, of networking doesn't work. It absolutely does if you're not being self-serving. And there's a lot of very self-serving people out there. And I'm going to give you two pieces of tidbit. Is they're are loads of other consultants, service providers, vendors that are serving your ideal client today. You should have meaningful relationships with those individuals, and if you don't, you're doing something wrong. And you need to make sure that you're doing them in an authentic way with those individuals and having good relationships with those people, right? And
Mhm.
and staying in touch with those individuals. Like one of the things that, so like find out who those people are, reach out to them, and very simply, hey, we both work in the same space, we don't compete with each other, just, I'm growing my network, thought it'd be good for us to get to know each other. I like knowing good people. It'd be great to connect. In that conversation, I'm going to give one piece of advice that'll allow for you to understand whether this person is someone you should even consider welcoming into your network or not. Don't say anything about yourself. Ask about them. And if they ask you nothing about yourself, they're not going to be a good person in your network because they were self-serving.
Yes. And I think what happens, what I was thinking as you were sharing that, is I think people start to confuse networking with outside sales. Yeah. Right? Like if I'm just wandering around the cocktail hour, passing out my business card saying, do you know anybody who needs a new brand? No? Okay. Do you know anybody who needs social media management? You don't buy, right? Like that's not networking. That's door-to-door sales in a cocktail room, right? And I think that's what we're talking about here is if you're showing up, those are the people who are saying, oh, networking doesn't work.
It also feels like a 20-year-old guy at a bar too at the same time, right?
Yeah, same. I'm like, can I swipe or something? Can I? Isn't that allowed here? But if I'm showing up and saying, hey, what do you do? What brings you here? Tell me more about your business. Maybe I know somebody who would be a really good fit for you. I just love to hear more about what's going on in your world. Okay, now we're networking, right?
Yep.
And so I think too, the takeaway here is having a business that is referral focused, right? That can be a marketing strategy, networking, getting referrals, building a business in that way. But what you're saying is it needs to be intentional. There needs to be a plan. We need to be showing up from a place of integrity and curiosity and discernment with it, right? We're not just randomly attending cocktail hours or throwing out, hey, do you want to grab a coffee, right? Closing the loop, staying in touch with these people, right? And I do love the cupcake story. I think that's so great. Actually, someone had told me a long time ago too, when you get referrals, let the person know how it went. Because oftentimes they make the introduction, you go, oh, thanks so much. And then they don't really know what happened, right? Did you work together? Did it work great? Whatever. So somebody had told me that years ago, follow up with that person and let them know, like, thank you so much. We ended up working together. I just really appreciate it. I love your idea too. Can that even be as simple as a note, right? Sending them a handwritten note. Don't steal their dog and send a ransom note, like a lovely handwritten note, thanking them, letting them know. So just being intentional. Do you have any other tips about how someone could make networking like a true marketing process in their business?
I would have something that I would do from a marketing channel perspective. So like it could be podcast, it could be a joint white paper, it could be a joint report, whatever, something that you're doing from a marketing side with the people in your network, something that you're doing from like a client elevation and client impact. So like there's some aspect of like, one of the most impactful strategic partnerships that I've seen, UX UI agency client has a really meaningful relationship with a research firm. And so they're actually sending clients back and forth and the same client back and forth consistently of like, I've gone through my design sprint. It's now ready. It's now published in live. Now they're going to go back and do research with the consumer base and they're going to have insights. And then now we've got more design work to do. And then it just goes back to the research firm. So they're just like continuing the cycle. So that's really useful. Great referral partner. They interact with each other in a really meaningful way of like, hey, even the agency's invited as part of the data analysis of like what you can actually do with this data to actually improve your product. And so they're giving some insight, making the actual research that was done for that other agency, that research firm, to be more impactful to the client, which is also introducing people. And I'm also just a big gifter too. A client of mine said that it's a love language of mine. I really like giving really specific and very personal gifts to people. And do that with your people in your network too. If someone, really, okay, as an example, here was an example of a gift. A client of mine, they're an executive producer, has produced loads of films. We actually had a custom little book end thing created of all the
Mm.
films that he has produced over the years. It's
Oh,
like an old
wow.
blockbuster style with all the names written on it of all the books.
Yes.
And it's just like we spend some time researching. We know that it's really personal to him, and like something like that that just allows for you to like recognize the human and just
Mhm.
be focused on the human as much as you can in sales and in marketing, I think.
Yes, I think that perfectly sums up our conversation, right? It's just recognize the human. Robert, I think this has been so insightful. You have dropped so much knowledge on all of us. Is there anything else you'd like to share as we're wrapping up?
I would say that each one of you have chosen this vocation out of every other potential career for a reason. And it wasn't so that you could be, flying around private and owning a yacht. That wasn't the objective. And I think that the more that you get back to doing great work, having meaningful relationships, having fun in what you're doing, that you'll start to do better by it. I think there's been so much that I feel like has devolved or dissolved the excitement and passion that was the reason why you entered into this industry in the first place. And the more that you get back to it, the more energy that you're going to have in the work that you're doing, which then creates greater momentum and ultimately greater success.
Oh, couldn't agree more. That was perfectly said. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I think this was such a valuable conversation. I can't thank you enough for your time. Everybody go listen to his podcast, The Agency Blueprint. He shares tons of great information, super valuable. And be sure to leave us a comment.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Melissa.